Good afternoon. We welcome you to the sitting today of the Blanco Library here in Blanco, Texas. My name is Martha Hurden, and this is part of the Blanco Library's Oral History Project. We are very happy today to be sitting here with three of Blanco's finest ladies who have lived in Blanco and share their service time and volunteer work here at the library, all three of them. And so I'm going to introduce them as we go. Our first lady is Dorothy Warrington. Our second lady is Jerry Copeland. And our third lady is Olive Marie Depew. Now, these three women all do not go by their full names. Dot goes by Dot. Gerald goes by Jerry. And Olive Marie goes by Omce. They are three completely different ladies, and we're going to take time now and get to meet them. So we're going to start with Dot, because we have everybody sitting today in their age rank. Dot is 94, Jerry is 92, Omce is 88. So Dot, tell me where you were born at. Let's just hear you talk a little bit.
Presidio, Texas.
What time of the year?
Oh, good Lord. I was born in April the 13th, Friday.
Friday the 13th.
Yes, sirree. My lucky day.
How big of a family do you come from? How many children?
Whose family are you talking about?
Your sisters. Do you have any brothers?
No,
other than these
just the three of us.
Three girls. Your parents had their hands full, didn't they?
No.
Just in general, what do you think for you, what was life like in Presidio growing up as a child?
I do not remember very much about Presidio. I do not have a good memory of my bringing up.
Okay. Do you remember your first sister coming along? No, because you were only about, what, 2 years old?
No, I remember the third one.
You remember the third one. Okay, we're going to hold for her just a minute. Jerry, where were you born at?
Presidio.
Tell me what your memories are.
Well, I do have some memories younger than most people remember. I remember living in Presidio, even though I don't know if I had as much as 2 when we left. I'm not sure.
Did you like it?
Well, what's to like? I remember 2 or 3 incidents, most of them bad. I remember, for instance, that Dot and I were playing out in the yard. I guess it was in the hotel yard, owned the hotel. And there was a big dog came along and scared us to death, and we found a big packing box, and we crawled in there to hide from that dog. I remember, that's one of the first things I remember. I couldn't have been over 18 months old.
And you can still remember that?
Yeah, I remember it, and how scared we were. Another thing I remember, a man came up and was being, well, talking about what a pretty little girl, blah, 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 you know, that sort of thing. And my mother came along, "Don't you dare touch my child." And I got the impression that you should never express any feelings of love or anything like that to anybody. It was the wrong thing to do.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Took me years to get over that.
Do you understand where your mother's reaction was coming from?
This is mine. Leave it alone.
I think she was afraid that maybe he was going to try to hurt you.
I don't think so. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
You didn't. Your mother, our mother, is not on this the agenda here.
Omce. Miss Omce of 88 years old. You too were born in Presidio.
Oh,
No.
Where were you born at?
Dolores.
Dolores.
It's closer to Laredo,
Uh-huh.
about 30 miles up the river. It's a coal mine, an anthracite coal mine.
Uh-huh.
My father was the doctor for the company, and that's where I was born.
What did you think growing up in a family of 3 girls? How did that feel?
I didn't have much connection with them, really.
Because there's an age difference. You're the
Yeah,
baby of
yeah,
the family.
And I think I must have been pretty independent.
I can't imagine that.
Oh boy!
Who would you say of the 3 of you was the best at school?
Dot.
Dot, why do you think you were the very best at school?
Just because I studied hard.
Did you enjoy school?
What?
Did you enjoy school?
What was your age when you went to college?
16, I
Yeah.
think.
You went to college at the age of 16.
Yeah.
I did too.
Both of you.
I was 5 years old in the first grade. I was still 5 in the second grade. I just had a half year first grade. When I was in the third grade, I was still just 6 years old.
Wow. They advanced you.
No,
Oh,
it was a matter of why pay a babysitter when you can throw them in the school. Get rid of them.
Yeah. And you know, if you think about it, in this day and age, it's gone to that because the kids start like at pre-kindergarten when they're about 3 or 4 years old.
But they're in pre-kindergarten. They're not in first grade.
No, that's a difference. You're right. That it must have been hard.
Well, I didn't know any better, so.
So you just went with it.
I remember when I was in the 4th or 5th grade, my teacher says, Geraldine, do you realize that you're about 3 years younger than everybody in this class?
And you said.
And I said, well, I knew it, but I never, what? So what?
Omce, did you go into college?
Oh, yeah. 7 years.
What age did you start at?
I was out of high school at 17, but probably during the Depression,
Uh-huh.
and I stayed home a year, so I was 18 when I went to college.
Where did you go to college at?
University of Texas.
Oklahoma Horns. Where did you go to college at?
Westmoreland College, which was a junior college in San Antonio.
Uh-huh.
I finally joined with a Presbyterian junior college and became Trinity University.
Trinity.
I didn't get
Wow.
very far. There was a Trinity after I quit.
Yeah. And Dot?
I went to TCU.
TCU. I have a dear friend whose son graduated from TCU. Good college, all of them. Who got married first?
I did.
You got married first.
Yeah.
Tell me about it. Who'd you marry?
Well, I married Ben Copeland. He was he worked in where was it? Swifts or Farmers? This is Fort Worth. And my cousin thought he was such a wonderful guy. He just absolutely had to get us together, which he did, and then we ended up marrying.
Okay. Did the 3 of you get to run around some as teenagers before you got into college?
No,
No.
not ever.
They were gone.
Yeah, with the age difference, but with
Yeah.
you and them. Yeah. What was that like for you?
Well, I
Just move on.
Yeah, I was top dog then. Got the bedroom.
You got the bedroom. What did you have before?
I had a bedroom, but it was at the back of the house.
Back of the house.
They had the nice one up front.
Who could tell me just something briefly about your parents? You can make it brief.
I don't know how to make it brief.
Well, then don't make it brief.
My father, my grandparents immigrated from England to Texas, and they lived in Gonzales for about a year, and then they moved to Kerrville, and that's where my father grew up and graduated from high school. And incidentally, he and Admiral Nimitz were buddies, graduated together. They were seat mates, you know. Back then they had two people sitting on a desk, and so they were, you know.
That's great.
Anyway, so but then he went to business school and became an accountant. All his brothers, 7 of them I think, all became accountants and CPAs and that sort of thing. But he was with a pickle factory in Atlanta, Georgia, and they sent him down into Mexico.
Central America.
I'm not sure why, whether it was to collect a debt or to get them to grow cucumbers for their factory. I don't know what, but anyway.
Omce, did you say it was Central America?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Well,
Wow.
that's not the tale he told, but anyway, that's all right. We have differences on lots of things.
That's what sisters should do.
But anyway, he was appalled at the condition in which the people lived down there in middle Mexico. And so when he finished whatever business he had to, he went back to Georgia, quit his job, and went to medical school to become a doctor. He was going to be a medical missionary down in Mexico. That was his aim and ambition. Well, as it turned out, I don't know, of course he was a Methodist, and I don't know whether they had foreign relations, whatever you would call it, where they would help people, or whether he would have been on his own. I do not know. But anyway, he ended up practicing medicine in town in Colorado. That's where his family lived then. And then the war, what was it, Spanish War of, what was it anyway, where we were having this fight with Mexico, and Pancho Villa was a very prominent individual, and so they had the biggest army post in the United States was in Presidio. And so he got a job with the Army as their doctor in Presidio. And so that's where he ended up. But his idea was to learn the Spanish language better, so he could, you know, when he got to Mexico, he had, I'm sure he'd studied in school and everything, but that's not like knowing how to talk to people, you know. And
Omce, let me ask you, can you remember just one lesson, if any, that both of your parents might have taught you that stayed with you throughout your life?
No, I never thought of it that way.
Because you seem to me to be all three very independent. And you had to have gotten that independence from somewhere.
Probably, well, our mother.
Okay. Tell me about that. Do you mind?
She was actually a very unusual individual. She was a school teacher. And she got her, well, I guess she started teaching before she graduated, you know.
yeah, back then,
went to
2
school.
years in college gave you a teacher's certificate.
Right. Good.
And so she went to school every summer from then on to get her degree. But Now I forgot what I was going to say.
I was asking you about a quality or a lesson that you think your parents would have taught you, and I mentioned the fact that you're all independent, and you related that to your mother.
Well, she was an independent thinker.
Mm-hmm.
She was interested in a lot of different ideas, different religions. She studied them all. She has a library like you wouldn't believe, which now I have.
You have it.
And she was very, very, she didn't express herself very much. She kept, but
She kept quiet.
yeah,
Mhm.
she didn't try to put her ideas off on anybody else, But she was widely read and very intelligent woman.
Yes, because for y'all to be able to read, I gather you could read before you ever went to school.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yes. When did you get married?
In 47.
And who did you marry?
I went to university 7 years.
You told me, I remember that. That 7
waiting-
years stands out in my mind.
Waiting for the boys to come home. from
During the
Europe.
war.
Yeah. And my husband had been a prisoner of war for 22 months with the guest of the Luftwaffe in Germany.
In Germany.
And he finally came back. And I met him at a football game at the university. He went back to school.
After that.
Yeah. He'd had a couple of years. He was an engineering student.
Uh-huh.
But we went together for a year, and that was always my break-off point, If the relationship didn't develop after a year, I said goodbye.
Goodbye.
So I had a job with the YWCA, and my boss got fired, and so I quit in protest.
From your boss getting fired.
Yeah.
Strong.
And so I was headed for Denver, Colorado. I was going to go to interior decorating school.
Uh-huh.
And but my mother was a florist also, and she went to Midland to help a friend that was starting a florist shop, and she wanted me to. She knew I was without, between jobs, so she asked me to come to Laredo and look after Daddy while she was gone. So I did, and I got a letter from my to-be husband,
Mm-hmm.
and asking me to marry him.
Through a letter.
Yeah. And then on top of that, I got a telegram.
He was serious.
He was serious. So the mother got back from Midland. We were married here in Blanco. They had already bought the property here,
Uh-huh.
and hadn't moved up here, but they built a house already. But they came up and were with us when we married in the Methodist church here, with just them in attendance.
Wow.
And so that's
Your husband.
Yeah.
Dot, when did you get married?
Where did she get married?
What year and where? Yes.
Gosh, where was I?
Shanghai.
She was in
I was
Shanghai?
in Shanghai.
You got married in
she was never
Shanghai.
in
Yes, I
Shanghai.
did. I forget.
Okay, tell me.
We were at the Friends unit in Shanghai, and I I had been there in China working with the head man of the unit there. And we moved to Shanghai, and Don was the person at the Shanghai office. So when the army flew us to Shanghai, and I entered the office in Shanghai, Don picked me up and carried me over the threshold of the office. And we worked in cold building in Shanghai, and I wore half gloves and a little heater that I'd warm up on before so I could type. And what else?
Well, was it love at first sight?
Oh, I have no idea when it was ever love. That was a word we didn't use for years and years.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't express the word love. I couldn't
Right.
even do that. We never used love for years after we were married.
Uh-huh.
It was very strange.
Did all three of you have children?
Yep.
How many did you have?
I had 3. The first was a son born in Shanghai.
So you brought the first boy into the family.
I guess.
But you're the oldest.
Yeah.
And then your other 2?
But I don't know whether I was the first married.
No, I was married before you were.
Yeah.
Did you have the first child?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Boy or girl?
Boy.
Boy. Sorry, got to give it to her. She brought the first boy in. And then you had a boy and?
2 girls.
Wow.
One was born in North Carolina. Where was Nancy born? I'm not sure. She was born in Pennsylvania, I guess.
How many children?
3 boys.
You had all boys? I bet you were tough on those boys.
No, they were angels.
Really? Now, why is she having a reaction to you saying they were angels?
No.
Oh, I have never yet seen a boy that I would call an angel, whether it was 3 or 1.
Yeah.
They're little devils.
No, my.
No, she has some nice kids, she really did.
And how many, and yours?
I have 2, a boy and a girl.
A boy and a girl.
Yeah. And incidentally, my boy and his wife moved to Blanco, 3, 4 years ago?
I'm not sure. I mean,
Somewhere along there, I don't know. From the day we left here, which we did leave for a number of years, my kid's one ambition was to move back to Blanco.
Wow.
Well, he got here first. He's very active in Blanco stuff. He's president of the club? What am I trying to say? Nancy, Kathy's his wife is president of the Women's Club. They're very active, and of course they're big Baptists, and they're active in that church.
What do you think was the reason for your parents to look toward coming to Blanco, Texas?
That's easy. Now you'll laugh. They bought the place here in Blanco so they would have nice, cool summers to come to.
Uh-oh.
That's why we're here.
And how fast did they find out? Pretty fast.
For several years, they came up there in the summertime all the time and thoroughly enjoyed every
Well, it
minute
was
of it.
cooler than Laredo.
Yes, I agree. Yes, Laredo
No,
is.
but that's why we're
terrible.
here for cool summers.
Well, I tell you what, if the cool Texas summers have brought you all three this much longevity, there's got to be something to the heat. There's got to be. What did you, Omce, what did you think of Blanco when you first got here?
Oh, I thought it was wonderful. I was at the university when they bought this place.
What did you like the most about it?
The river.
Yeah, we live
Yeah,
on the
the
river,
river.
see.
Mhm.
And at that time, the river was a river.
Now, tell me what you mean by that.
It had water in it.
I would gather that in your time of living in Blanco, there's been several times that you've seen the river
Dry.
with dry, and also you've seen it overflowing.
Oh, yeah.
The
What did-
last time on my 50th wedding anniversary,
It did what?
flooded.
Yes.
We had 6 inches of rain while her party was going on.
During the party?
Yeah. Of course, about half the people that were invited to the party didn't make it. They weren't more than 150 people there, were there?
I don't know.
Something
Now,
like that.
have all of your spouses passed?
Yeah.
You've lost your husbands. Who was the first back? You said you left Blanco for a while. Who was the first back to Blanco?
We never really, it was our legal address
All the time. But you traveled a lot.
Yeah, we moved 44 times.
You moved 44 times?
We lived overseas about 25 years, all over the southern hemisphere.
Name me some of the places you've lived.
Algiers, Somalia, New Zealand, and 4 countries in South America. And then he was a geophysicist, and he was in other places that we weren't allowed to go
Uh-huh.
in the all over the world.
What was your favorite place?
The kids were teenagers, and when we were in Somalia, and they could get the Land Rover driver from the company and take them out to the boondocks,
Uh-huh.
you know, and look for. They didn't shoot any, but they were looking for, wild game,
Mm-hmm.
and we lived right on the beach.
Oh, my gosh.
And I think that was one of the high points.
Yeah.
Except New Zealand,
What a
we spoke English. I mean England English, and otherwise it was South America was, of course. I knew some Spanish,
Mhm.
but we lived in 4 different countries in South America.
My gosh. What were you saying, Dot, about some of the places that your sisters lived?
Well, the difference in Somalia now.
Yes. It's such a difference.
Yeah, I'm trying to find out who I can contact to send some money over there.
Yes. It's very heartbreaking.
Yeah.
I gather all three of you have traveled throughout your lives.
Yeah, I traveled. I've been from Blanco to Oklahoma City. I went to Colorado for our family reunion when I was 11, and then when a few years ago I went to my son-in-law's reunion in California.
Uh-huh.
One trip to California,
Really? I didn't know you
and
went
from Laredo to Blanco to Fort Worth. That's
So
it.
you've not been
I haven't been
out of the
anywhere.
country. You've never been out of the country.
Well, I went to Monterey one time.
Okay. Dottie, you've traveled.
Certainly have.
Tell me a little bit about it.
Well, I spent 5 years in China. I spent 5 years in Bogota, Colombia. I spent a year in Costa Rica. I guess that's it.
So, you come back to Blanco, and then after your spouses have passed, how did the three of you get involved in voluntary work, doing work here at the library? What brought that on?
When I moved to Blanco, the library consisted of a shelf in Folger drugstore.
In the drugstore?
In the drugstore. I didn't pay any attention to it. I had more books than that. Then they moved to a very small room, about a third the size of this, behind the
City Hall.
Wherever the police,
City Hall?
police or whatever. And in that room they had a desk and a chair for whoever was opening it, and then there was 3 small bookshelves about, well, it wouldn't be as big as those. And that was it. I had read every book in that library before then. Well, I don't read fiction, but everything but fiction, I had read it before I knew what I was doing. But then eventually I used to go with, I can't think of her name, this gal. We used to have book sales on the square or in the courthouse to make money to help the library.
To help the library grow.
Now that was before it was almost before it was a library, and then when we finally, expanded and joined the whatever organization there is for libraries that we joined, and it grew from there. But I've been in this library almost from the jump go. I didn't have anything to do with that shelf, but other than that, I was there.
Do the three of you believe that the day will come and this library will grow into a very big library? Do you think that'll happen?
I hope not.
Well, it is known as one of the best and biggest libraries of a town this size. I mean, technically that's, it is accepted as that. And so I don't doubt but what it will grow more, but I don't think it would ever compete with, say, the library at the UT or anything like that. After all, we have access to
Each
them.
one of you have different jobs that you do in the library? What do you do?
I mainly keep that exhibit case.
Any particular reason that you picked that?
Yes, I gave them when the library was back there behind the. I gave them the case, and my name and our husband's names on it and everything. And so I've always kind of kept exhibits in it over the years when I was here, because I came and went a lot in the early years. And now I keep changing it every 6 weeks.
Dot, what part do you work in?
Well, way back yonder before it became computerized, I actually entered some of the children's books in the computer when we went computer. But I can't begin to do all that stuff on the computer now.
She used to open and close this library with the computer taking on and off. Now she says she can't do anything with it.
With the computer?
Well, they've changed the computer.
They changed 2 or 3 times, and they got away from her.
Where do you volunteer at in the library?
I don't do anything but cover books and occasionally repair them.
How do the three of you get along?
Beautiful, girl.
Have you had fights?
No. What would we fight about?
That's what I'm wondering. Who takes everybody? Do all three of you drive?
Not anymore. That's the driver.
I had a stupid accident about a year ago, and I'm not driving now because my husband said, my son, it's not nice to say you're drunk. Say you're dizzy. And I'm not sure that sometimes drunk isn't a better name for what I am. So I quit driving and
Yeah.
I got rid of my vehicle.
So do y'all work out a schedule? Is it pretty well organized as to
Not organized. I'm the driver.
She's
So
the
when-
only one that drives.
you organize it? Y'all want to go, hop on.
No, we have schedules.
Who makes the schedule? You do?
No,
We do.
Well,
we go to exercise twice a week.
Why do you do that?
We practically helped build the Gym of the Hills, and we've always been
You better fund this for it.
connected there.
Yeah. Does the exercise help you?
I don't go to
I
exercise.
enjoy it.
What do you like about it?
People.
We have a director now that once a week to give us the exercises, and she's fantastic, and she makes it so interesting that we really enjoy it. Otherwise, we use a tape. And I think it's something we ought to do.
How did you begin to find out about each other that you were all three so completely different and independent of each other? Why do you think you're that way? Because as I listen to you, you've led different lives, but yet in some ways you've all done some of the same things. But I can see I'm looking at three very different women. What do you think about that?
Oh, yeah. We're just different.
Is there a boss?
No. If there was, there'd probably be conflict.
There,
Nobody's going to tell me what to do.
I kind of gathered that.
and there's a difference in religious beliefs, and we just three entirely different people.
Yeah.
I'm psychic, and they aren't even interested in it. It's just all different.
And when you bring that up and talk about it, what do they say?
Nothing. They just listen. No, I never stop talking, so they just listen.
Are you able to get a word in edgewise? When you're all three together and talking?
Not easy.
No, why? Why bother?
Why bother? What's it like to be at this age in your lives and to still have your
It's
sisters?
unmitigated hell since you can't drive. Now that's what it is.
That's stating it plain.
Absolutely.
Why is that?
Because I've lost my independence.
Yes, ma'am. And that's tough.
Yep.
Makes you mad.
This last year has been horrible.
I'm sorry.
Up until then, I got on all right.
Did it bother you to have to ask Dot to start giving you a ride?
It bothers me to ask anybody to do anything for me. But she is an angel. You can't see her wings, but she's got them. She goes out of her way to make it easy to ask her when I need something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what I'd do without her.
What do you think? That touches you, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, I love her very much.
Well, that's what we were talking about the other day when I first met Jerry, if I'm getting my names right. You were saying, well, we don't have anything in common.
Well,
And I said, well, you're sisters? Yeah. And you automatically said it today, well, you love each other? Yes. And you all three work at the Blanco Library. And you all three now live in Blanco. I want you each to tell me about what you think about the changes you've seen in Blanco as you've lived here. What you think about it. Some of the things that hit you the most.
several years ago in our Spanish adult education thing, we took Spanish, Dot and I did. And one time she said to write a essay, or whatever you want to call it, on Blanco.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know, what on earth will you say about Blanco? So I went back to my brain and decided to remember it when I moved here. And so I started down in this square. Back then, square was Blanco.
That's right.
That's all it was. And so I wrote this, every place in it, and what was, what kind of business was in there, and maybe a little something about the people. And I wrote it in Spanish, and then later I translated into English. For the life of me, I don't know what I did with it. It's somewhere in my junk. I tried to find it, but I couldn't. The difference back then to now is just astounding. There's not very many of the same businesses are still there. Back then, when you went to town on Saturday morning, because everybody went to town on Saturday,
right.
and the women sold their eggs and butter and all that kind of stuff, and the men did all their business. That was Saturday. I mean, all day long. It was fun. But 90% of it was in German. Very seldom heard English speaking. Well, that was in 1945.
Mm-hmm.
Now you don't hear German speaking anywhere.
No, you don't. But that's a lot of the founding people of the town.
Were German or Polish, which has the same language. But when you think back, I loved a lot of those people there because I became acquainted with them. And I understand. I wasn't a country grown person. I wouldn't have known what to do with whatever. We ended up having a dairy, but my husband had the dairy. I didn't.
Yeah.
And he wasn't a country guy either. He's in Fort Worth, Texas. But it was country life was a new thing for both of us.
Omce,
We thoroughly enjoyed it.
what do you think holds the future for Blanco? What do you see Blanco becoming?
It's out of my limits of conception. I'm still living in the past. I don't do it. I'm not modern at all. I don't have a cell phone. I don't have a computer. I'm not interested in those things. I belong to 3 clubs here.
Uh-huh.
But
Well, if you had a crystal ball and you were looking through it, what do you think Blanco might look like in 10 years from now?
there's so many people from the cities that have moved in, and they're running it now, and it's just entirely different. I guess it's progress, but it's not my way of living.
There used to be a saying, because I'm a new-timer. I've only lived in Blanco, my husband and I, about almost 30 years. But I always heard the saying from the time I got here, well, all we got to do is just put up a chain across 281, and that'll stop all the growth. And, I think the reason it held back was our water situation, but, they've got water now. And I just wonder, if you look back to what it was like then, when you first got here, to now, is it better or is it worse?
I'm sure it's better, but it's just not
It's not your cup of tea.
no.
Well, I'm reminded of one of these old timers. He said, well, until all these old ones die out, Blanco will not grow. He was one of them.
I've heard that saying.
Uh-huh.
Yes, I have.
And most of them are dying
dying
out.
out.
There's not very many left. So I guess the only way to go is forward.
What do you think? Tell me what you think Blanco will look like in 10 years. Just a guess.
Any idea? I didn't even think about it.
You think it'll get bigger?
Oh, I'm sure, naturally.
Being here at the library volunteering, do you see more new faces coming into the library?
Most of them are new, it seems like to me.
Uh-huh. Is it making Blanco better? Do you think Blanco's still a friendly town?
For some people, but I live out in the sticks.
Out in the country.
Yeah, I don't have much to do with the town.
But yet you do. You're right here in part of the heart of the town. You're at the library, working, sharing your time. Where does that volunteer spirit come from in all three of you? To give back, because it's what you're doing.
I think it goes back to Daddy. He lived his life for other people.
Uh-huh.
I could talk all day long about that sort of thing, connected with him. But that's it. It's just part of our heritage.
Part of your heritage.
After all, I'm a Quaker.
You're a Quaker.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
The main center of my life has been around Quakers and the YMCA.
Uh-huh.
No, that has been my life all my life. Seems like.
Mm-hmm. And here you are now in a real different environment.
I can't go to YMCA's things anymore. Can't go to Quaker things anymore. Every year, my one vacation to spend a week at a Quaker conference. Can't go to those anymore.
How do you adjust to those changes? Of the things you can't do?
Well, I just don't do them.
And keep moving.
Yeah.
How often do the three of you get together? Is it just to do your work together, or do you get together socially?
Usually on Sunday afternoon, she comes down and visits with me. And outside of club meetings and that sort of thing, that's the only time we get together.
What do you like to talk about the most
Me?
with these two sisters?
Yeah, all, things I've done.
Uh-huh.
Talking about Blanco changing, I have started half a dozen different clubs and things here, and they have almost all of them run from 15 to 18 years, and then they just collapse. The people have changed, they've moved, they've died, and it's a cycle that I've seen all the last 60 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's always, now I'm in 2 new clubs.
What's your secret to living a long life? What's your secret to living a long life?
Because I haven't died.
Is there any, well, good, we're glad for that, but is there anything that you think, I do this or I do that will get me to longevity?
I'm very active.
Just being active.
Whether it's going somewhere or from what I can tell for the three of you, it's keeping your mind active.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I'm a musician. I started the orchestra here. We just disbanded after 18 years.
Mm-hmm.
We've had 2 writers' clubs and 2 book clubs. Then I had a writers' club, which there's my
Your contribution.
the club's contribution.
Uh-huh.
And I've just always been busy.
Good. Dottie, what do you think helps you to live a long life?
I always tell people it's because I take my vitamins and do my exercise sometimes.
She's in good health.
You all appear to be in great health.
Oh boy, I wish.
Well, I was until a year ago when this stupid gal ran into me.
Yeah.
And
Were you hurt?
She still hurts.
Yeah.
I had bruises in places I didn't know I had. And some of them I had this abdominal hematoma that has never gone down. Here it is.
Bless your heart.
I can't wear any of my clothes. And so I'm in the process of pulling them out and taking them to Good Samaritan.
So you were in the hospital for a while.
No.
Not,
Yes.
not lengthy. I was in the hospital 3 times, but just short length of time for each one of them. Because every time I'd get out of one hospital, something would show up that wasn't there before.
Mhm.
Like, like this
With your head.
thing.
Concussion?
Everywhere I was with, they'd say, "Did you hit your head?" No, I hit everything else, but not my head. The next doctor that came in, the next nurse, the next physicist, whatever, "Did you hit your head?" No, I didn't hit my head. And about a week after I got back home, all of a sudden I reached up and here was this big bump on the top of my head. It hadn't been there for the first week or 10 days.
So you had hit your head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big part of my problem. Of course, I still can't wear any of my clothes, but which is an inconvenience.
Who's the most, you think, who's the quietest of the group? Who speaks the least of the 3 of you when you're together?
Probably me.
You think that?
Yeah, probably so.
Well, I don't, I'm not a talker.
I do all the time.
You do all the talking. So if there was an issue to be fought for them, you could fight it out for them.
Well, I wouldn't know what an issue would be,
Well, I mean, you look out for them. You take up, if there was someone that said, well, I don't think they need to do this or do that, I got a feeling you take whoever it was to task.
Well, it's never come up.
Good. Good. What's one of your favorite memories, being young women and married?
I have so many memories.
Well, just go for it.
I
I'm going to give her an opportunity.
write it all down. It's just my married life.
So that's a point you hit on, is your married life meant a great deal to you.
Well, because this was so interesting.
Did you think it would be like that at first?
I never did give it a thought because I had never slowed down before I married.
Uh-huh. And you just kept going.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you've slowed down some now?
Well, I'm blind in one eye. I
Can't eat.
can't eat. I don't eat. I have narcolepsy. I had 5 falls last year and 2 concussions.
Bless your heart.
I'm healthy, but I have all these things,
Yeah.
conditions, that I have to put up with.
Do you check on each other?
Well, I go see him every Sunday. If that's
Yeah.
checking up.
That's checking up. Do you check on them?
I'd see her every
Oh.
day to take her mail, and
She brings me her mail every day, and then we visit a few minutes to see what we've been doing during that day. And so that's a highlight of my day when Dot shows up.
Oh, that's true love. That's good. Do y'all go out to eat together?
I don't eat.
She doesn't
You don't eat. Well, so what's keeping you going? Thin air?
Look at me. Yeah, thin air.
Bless your heart.
That's why I look like this. I lost all my weight and I can't get anything back.
You've got a condition, or
I've got lots of conditions.
I think we all do, don't we?
You don't want me to
No.
get started on that.
It's a tough road to walk down sometimes, isn't it? That's why I wonder. I look
I
at
don't
you.
know how she manages.
Well, all 3 of you appear to have a very deep inner determination in you. I can see that, just having met you. You're 3 strong women. You mentioned that the 3 of you have some completely different religious beliefs. Is that right?
I would think so.
Does it get to be have you ever had a
No,
con?
of course
no.
You respect each other.
Sure.
Do you walk away sometimes thinking, wonder why she's thinking that way?
I imagine they do for me, yeah.
Why do you think
we
that's
gave up a long time ago.
Trying to understand her?
No, just accepting her. We don't have to understand her to accept her.
Well, you know, they say the youngest can be the most determined. You think that's true? Being the baby of the family?
Probably.
The most determined?
Yeah. I've heard the youngest is kind of the most
I don't
determined.
know what the word determined would mean.
Let me see. A real just, I'm not going to give up. I won't quit. I'll keep going no matter what.
Okay.
That's what I see in all of you. It's just in different ways. I mean, you are three completely different women.
Yep, that's for sure.
What's the thing you treasure the most about being sisters?
Well, I guess after 80 or 90 years, I'll be thinking, what would we do if we didn't have sisters?
What's the worst thing about having sisters?
I don't know of any.
What's the worst thing about having a sister?
No, nothing. We were very fortunate.
That's great.
And all living out here together? That's just
Yes.
wonderful. Now,
Would you have dreamed that?
No,
No.
we'd have laughed if anybody had said that we would even be in the same town, much less in the same Roomba.
and now all our kids are moving in on us too, so.
Yes, you know, I said my son and his wife moved here about, 3 or 4 years ago.
Uh-huh.
My daughter is in the process of moving back this week.
Wow. What
She's got
about
a
you?
house.
Nobody's coming back here for me.
And then my grandson and his wife she's moving in with me next week with 2 teenagers. That should be fun.
Oh my gosh.
4 dogs and a horse.
So where you live at is your parents' home place?
No.
No.
They bought it in 47 and 44.
Uh-huh.
No, they bought the place in 44, like I say, to have a cool summer.
And y'all live now in a different
then,
spot.
I moved here in 45, and there was a one-room house on the place that's like 150 years
It is
old.
right there.
And and that's what it looked like when I moved in it. We changed it up considerably then.
Oh my goodness.
And added 2 bedrooms, and that was 1 room. Wow. And then we lived in that for a number of years, and we left and went back to Fort Worth. So they then when he retired, we moved back and we added a bunch of stuff to
I
it.
want each one of you just real briefly to tell me, and then we're going to take some shots of some pictures. When I asked you to do this interview, what did you think? What were you expecting of it?
I thought it was about time.
Good, it is. What did you think?
I thought, oh my goodness, what in the world? What does she think?
Well, we were interviewed for the...
Years ago, we were interviewed for a little thing in the paper.
Uh-huh.
And the gal that interviewed us is very lovely, and I'm very fond of her and all that. But I didn't think she did a very good job of it.
Well,
Really?
They got...
It's very short.
They got short, and I got 2 pages.
Uh-oh. Well, could that be because you talk a lot?
Yeah.
For sure. That's the whole point.
Have you enjoyed this interview?
Oh, yeah. I was looking forward to it.
Good, good.
I brought this stuff as a shocker for you.
That's what I want to look at. Can you give me a piece of advice?
Keep
For-
up the good work.
Just keep on doing what you're doing. It's lovely.
Thank you.
You're just great.
Well, I'm telling you what, it is a privilege and an honor to get to meet all three of you. Blanco is sincerely blessed to have Dottie, Jerry, and Omce, three sisters of Blanco, living here and volunteering their time and their talents for the library. God bless all three of you. Well, thank you all for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you, dear.